You could have a business owner doing what they think is a ton of marketing, but if it is not in the realm of if there's not a strategic plan behind it, they're not going to get the results that they want to. And so then the business owner blames the marketing and says, well, it wasn't working and I wasted all this money. Really, usually what I see is that it's because you lack the strategy first.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show. Kristi Mitchell joins me today on Making Sales Social. Kristi is a strategic marketing consultant and founder of Marketing Uncomplicated, which I think is a great name for a business. She specializes in helping service-based business owners simplify their approach to marketing. With an MBA and over 10 years of experience in corporate marketing, she spent the last 5 years transforming the businesses of more than 100 clients. She's also the host of Unfudge Your Marketing. This woman is great when it comes to naming things. I love that too. In that, she shares her unique approach to cutting through the noise and bringing clarity to marketing strategies. She also interviews people like myself. I was on her podcast really recently. It was a great time. So I know that we're going to have a great conversation here too. With that, welcome, Kristi.
Thank you so much for having me, Bob. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to hear your answers to some of the questions that I've got coming up here, which the first traditional question that we always have here is, what does making sales social mean to you? And before you jump on that, because I know you want to jump on that, I'd like to take that from the intersection of sales and marketing, like that kind of standpoint, since you're more on the marketing side than the sales side.
Yeah, for sure. To me, it's remembering that it's all about relationships. So a lot of my clients are in the B2B space, and I always like to make sure that business owners or those who are executing marketing plans remember that there is a human element. We are all people. We are selling to people at the end of the day. And so building relationships with people rather than just thinking in terms of companies or numbers or those kinds of like distant, disconnected things is really important. To remember that we're all people, and really marketing and sales all come down to building relationships.
Yeah, people I definitely think is the key there, and people with different motivations. I mean, if you try to just go with one marketing message to a company, you are definitely ignoring all the different people who might be involved in the decision, because as we know, the old statistic, and it's even been updated since this came out several years ago, but it used to be 6.8 people. I don't know who the 0.8 person is, but 6.8 people are involved in a typical B2B purchasing decision. So I think that that's where the actual relationship building comes in, because you got to build relationships with those people. And that number is much higher too. I don't remember what the more recent statistic is. LinkedIn did something, but it's much higher than that nowadays, which isn't surprising.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. And so tailoring that approach, and that I'm big on content strategy. And part of that work is identifying the pain points that your audience has. Because again, right, if we're thinking in terms of these are people, what is it that is keeping that person up at night? Whether it's the business owner or somebody on the board, or an admin who might be involved in part of that decision-making process. So yeah, being able to put yourself in the shoes of those different decision makers, I think, is really important.
Yeah. So you started Marketing Uncomplicated for at least 5 years ago. I'm not sure if it's a little longer than that now, but it's focused on simplicity and marketing. Can you tell us about your journey, and was there like a light bulb moment that happened where it's like, this is where I think I should take my company. This is where I really think I can help people?
So many light bulb moments. I feel like that is the case, right, in entrepreneurship. So yes, I did. I spent time in higher ed and corporate marketing, and really, as a lot of us do, have some of those corporate battle scars that were that push that we needed to go out and start our own thing. And so that was me. when I first started my business, it was actually called, you'll appreciate this, I think, since you like my naming of things. So I'll include all the details for your benefit. So the first
Excellent.
iteration of my business was phase 2 marketing, because I believed like I wanted to work with those established businesses who were ready for like that next level, that next phase. So phase 2
Mhm.
marketing was a name of my business. It felt more like an agency, but what I quickly realized was I didn't want to build an agency. I didn't want to hire people and have that added layer of stress and, making sure that my business could provide enough for all these people that I've employed and that sort of thing. So I realized pretty quick I didn't want to hire employees onto my company. And the other thing I realized, so I got 1 year under my belt, the pandemic hit, and I lost most of my clients because
Mhm.
marketing is the first thing to go.
Yep.
And what I realized was I didn't love the work that I was doing. I loved running my own business. I loved the freedom, the flexibility, the ability to adapt and change and work with clients I really wanted to work with and that sort of thing. But I was doing the execution work and I realized, gosh, I really don't like this. I don't enjoy creating social media posts and writing emails and making website edits and all of these things. And I would really just love to stay on the strategic planning side. And so I pivoted my business. I rebranded, renamed myself. I said, I also just want to be me. I just want to build my own like personal brand. So I rebranded Kristi Mitchell Consulting, filed my LLC at the time. And so that is what I moved forward with for the next few years. I stayed on the strategic planning side instead of getting into the weeds of all the execution. There's tons of great execution people out there that I can refer my clients to. But I stayed
Mhm.
in what I think is my zone of genius, is that strategic planning for marketing.
Mhm.
Then I kind of came, I'm not sure, right? These things kind of come together somehow. But I
Sure.
realized that the way that I approached marketing and the simplicity that I brought to it and the clarity that I brought to it with my frameworks, what I realized is I was making marketing simpler. I don't want to say easier because it still is a lot of work. I was making it simpler for my clients. And so I wanted a business name that really reflected what I was hearing from my clients, like the true value of what I brought to them with their struggles with marketing. And so that's where Marketing Uncomplicated came in. I decided to file the trademark. It took over a full year. I finally got the trademark this year. And so that is the new name of my business and what I've been really, really promoting. And it gets such great feedback because it's like, oh gosh, everyone wants marketing to feel less complicated,
Right.
simpler.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because let's face it, as you said, marketing ain't easy. It can be made simple, but
Hmm.
it ain't easy. So I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen a lot of businesses struggle with marketing complexity. That's why you call your company what it is. Why do you think marketing becomes so complicated for business owners? And more importantly, what is your approach to simplifying it for these people?
Yes. I think there's a number of reasons that it becomes complicated. One of which is there's so many things, right? There's so many moving pieces to marketing. I like to explain it as like,
Yeah.
think of marketing as like a huge umbrella. And underneath that umbrella, you have websites, you have social media, you have email marketing, you have copywriting, you have podcasting, you have branding, you have logo design, you have print, you have radio, you have advertising, you have all of these things that fall underneath it. So I think just the sheer volume of ways that you could market your business can easily be overwhelming and feel complicated. And how do you know which things to pick as a business owner that you're going to invest in? Because I haven't met a business yet that has unlimited marketing budget to just do all of the things, right?
If you find
So
one, let me know.
I will for sure. So we have to be selective, right? As business owners, we
Mhm.
have to be selective. And so when you have all these options, it's really difficult to know because chances are, as a business owner, you're not an expert in marketing. So you're like, okay, I know there's a bunch out there, but how do I pick what's right for me and what do I do? Then I think you add on the additional layer of we are all inundated with marketing all the time, every day. So you see other businesses doing other things for their marketing. And then there's like this FOMO, right? That's like, oh, well, they're doing this, so I need to do that. Or
Yeah.
you get the unsolicited advice from your business friend who's like, you really need to start a podcast or you really need to write a book. It's like, then it just adds on that layer of like, oh, but if I don't do all of the things, I'm not going to be successful. So I think that those are kind of the two biggest things that I see as like complicating the overall world of marketing. And I guess the third thing I would add is When you lack a strategy for your marketing, you do not get the results that you are capable of. And so as a result, you could have a business owner doing what they think is a ton of marketing. But if it is not in the realm of if there's not a strategic plan behind it, they're not going to get the results that they want to. And so then the business owner blames the marketing and says, well, it wasn't working and I wasted all this money. Really, usually what I see is that it's because you lack the strategy first.
Yeah. So strategy in anything sounds big and intimidating, but I definitely think it comes in with marketing, especially because you have all these pieces that come together. So with the understanding that this is likely, and I could be wrong, this is likely going to be different for each company putting together a strategy. How do you define just what a solid marketing strategy is in general? And more important, and you've kind of touched on this already, but what are some of the common areas where business owners get it wrong?
Yes. So this is where my marketing funnel framework comes in. And it is nothing earth-shattering. It is adapted from plenty of other models that already existed. But this was kind of the turning point for me in my own business when I realized that if I could show business owners how simple a marketing strategy and plan could be for their business, there's like these light bulb moments. They're like, oh my God, wow, that's so much simpler than I've been making it out to be. And so the framework that I use for that is the marketing funnel, but different than most people think about it. It's not like a sales funnel. It's not like tripwires and all these extensive email automations. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, think of an inverted triangle, right? For those of us who are listening and not seeing my visual with my hands, the widest part is on top, and then you have the narrowest part on the bottom. So at the top of the funnel, that's attract. That's how are you getting out in front of new people for your business? So those could be things like search engine optimization, right? Optimizing your website so people can find you when they go to Google. Could be social media, could be paid advertising, could be networking, right? All of those ways that people could learn about you first, right? As you're new to them. They're entering your world. Okay, so now they've come into your funnel, they're at the very top. That's right. Okay, side note, when we talk about marketing, a lot of times we hear building the know, like, and trust factors, right? Okay, so if we think about that, kind of layering that over top of our funnel, attract is know, right? Now people know that you exist. That's great. But that's not enough because, especially for service-based businesses, which is who I mainly work with, you're not usually ready to buy the first time you hear about somebody. So as a business, you need ways to bring people into your world, which I call convert. That's the next stage of the funnel, which is getting someone to give you their name and email address in exchange for something of value. This could be a free masterclass or webinar. It could be a downloadable offer. It could be a quiz, a lead magnet, all these things that we hear, those marketing buzzwords.
Right. Yeah.
But it is a helpful piece of content or experience that someone gets access to in exchange for giving you their name and email address.
Yep.
That's great because now you as the business owner have a better chance of staying in touch with them, which moves us to the next stage of the funnel, which is usually the longest, and that's nurture. So that is staying in touch with people over time so that they can build that trust factor, right? They need to see some social proof, some testimonials. They need to hear stories of how you've helped other clients, what success, your other clients have achieved out of working with you. So that nurture section is really critical. It's usually achieved by email marketing and social media. I like to say, for all the bad that there is about social media, the good part is I say you can double dip with it. It does help you attract and nurture people. You can get out in front of new people and you can stay in touch with them if you're consistently posting and engaging. So that's the nurture stage. And then the bottom of the funnel is close, right? That's making the sale when the timing is right. I always say I'm not a sales coach. That's why lovely people like you exist to help with the sales process. But I like to teach clients what they can do in their marketing all along the way that makes closing that deal easier. So it's things like testimonials and case studies and social proof and those kinds of things. So to answer your other question, what thing do business owners typically miss the mark on?
Yeah.
What are they missing? Typically, it's that convert and nurture to a degree. Usually, business owners do a ton at the top. They just keep focusing on getting their name out there and pushing out the message and trying to reach more people. But again, if you don't have a way to bring people into your world and nurture them over time, you're going to lose a lot of people out of that funnel. You're not nurturing them down to the bottom. They're just dropping out. So you could fill the top of that funnel all you want, but if you don't have that strategic plan, to get people on an email list and nurture them over time with really great content, you're only going to be able to make so many sales at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's all fascinating, and I'd agree with you. Just where businesses can go wrong with marketing. What I'm wondering is, especially for the salespeople who are listening to all of this, and they're thinking, "This all sounds great. Where do I come in? Where do I fit
Mm.
in?" So understanding that you're not a sales coach specifically, just where in your mind do you see sales coming into this?
Yes. So sales, I think, needs to have input into some of those other parts of the funnel, right? The attract and convert and nurture. I think having input and having a collaborative relationship is really important. Those are the most successful
Yeah,
marketing and sales teams that I see is when they're
yeah,
integrated together for sure. So I think a collaborative approach. I think that in my experiences, a common challenge I see is that some sales teams are conditioned like, okay, a lead came in through the website, somebody filled out a form. I'm going to pick up the phone and call them.
yep,
Okay, let's take a step back. And as the marketer, I am going to challenge the salesperson to say, okay, did that person fill out a form for a piece of content or, for some sort of more information that wasn't like, yes, let me get on a demo call with you and see what this thing is all about. We
right.
have to put ourselves in that prospect's shoes and meet them where they're at. So usually the very first step that somebody takes to learn more about a company in I think today in the culture that we're in, it's not that they want someone to reach out and call them. I would say 99% of the time, someone is not ready for that step. And so for a sales team who, right, you probably have quotas to meet, you have your numbers you got to make, but let's build a smarter process so that you're set up for success because it makes more sense for you to spend your effort reaching out to those people who have been engaging with all this email marketing and social content that's been going out there because they're going to be more receptive to having that conversation if they've been nurtured. If you just try and go from attract at the top to close at the bottom, it's not going to produce great results for you.
Yeah, and I think that that's important because especially with small businesses, they're probably living and dying per quarter. So I mean, yeah, you definitely need to have that more of a lead time there. So I do think that that's very important, and that kind of feeds into something that we say here at Social Sales Link. Slow down your outreach to speed up your outcome. I think that that's a perfect example of
I like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's move on to something else that you and I have really, really vibed on, especially based on the podcast episode of yours that we recently recorded on budget marketing. In case you're interested with that, we will have a link to that in show notes as well. But authenticity is one of the core values. Why do you believe authenticity is so critical in marketing, especially for service-based businesses?
It's just so core to my being. It is hard to understand businesses who don't value it, to be totally transparent with you.
Sure.
But I think it kind of goes back to how we started this conversation, Bob, is that if we're focused on relationships, aren't the best relationships founded on a level of authenticity? Like being who you truly are, saying what you mean, meaning what you say, following through on what you're going to do. Like those are things that I think are really important. And when a business can be clear on who they are and who they're a great fit for and what values are important to them, when they have that level of clarity and their marketing reflects that, not only are they going to enjoy marketing more because it's not going to feel like this dreaded task of like putting out this content that they're not excited about. It doesn't feel right. They don't really care about it, right? If you're just going through the motions, you're not going to get great results. You're not going to feel good about it and you're not going to get great results. I see it as being like a vicious cycle or a really great
Yeah.
cycle. So I think that those are important things to consider.
So what happens when you get a company and I'm guessing this has probably happened to you, but you get a company that doesn't have that yet. They're just out there selling a product or selling a service, and they're like, I really don't know what this is. I really don't know how to capture that. How
Mm-hmm.
how can you help them I don't know if finding their voice is a good way to put it, or
Yeah.
finding that, but how do you help them do that?
Yeah, I have a proprietary content strategy process. Again, it's taken from a bunch of other stuff that exists out there. It's not totally earth shattering, but it's my process that I have like picked and choose little pieces of all the things I've been exposed to in my time in marketing. And it starts with a buyer persona process, or some people hear about client avatars, right? It's getting super clear on who those target people are that you really want to work with, not just who you are currently working with, because a lot of times they're not ideal. If they're a huge pain to you and you don't enjoy it and you really want to love the clients you serve, like, all right, well, let's make sure we adjust those client avatars or buyer personas to be really clear on what makes for a really great client. So it's getting super clear on their pain points, their challenges, what keeps them up at night, like I said before, so that we can create content that's really going to resonate with them, that's going to show them we understand where you're at. Here are some resources or some things to consider that might help you with that problem. That doesn't necessarily mean hiring us yet, right? Ideally, yes, you want them to hire you, but that's not the first step of that journey. And so really coming up with those content ideas that are going to solve problems for that audience, that are going to be helpful and relevant, that is what I think makes a huge difference in successful marketing.
Yeah, because and I believe this is something that we discussed on your podcast, and that's something that we bring up here at SSL is to, don't talk about what you want to talk about what your audience of prospects, as we call them, or
Yes.
as I call them, having a radio and TV background, using the word audience a lot, but
Yep.
talk about the types of things that they need to know, or they should know, or maybe they don't know about the problems that they have when they are in business doing whatever it is that they do, and how you could potentially help them, but frame it in a way to where, and this is where another one of my phrases come up: stop talking about how you help people and just help people.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I'm having this visual come to mind. I created this for a client a couple of years ago. It's like you picture like two people are on a cliff, right? Like on opposite sides, and there's like this big hole, gaping hole in the middle. And you
Yeah.
have the business owner on one side, like shouting, like, here's what we offer, here's why you should work with us, here's this, here's that. And then you
Right.
have the target audience over here, and they're like, oh my God, I have all these problems. Like, I don't have time to listen to you. And that is the whole goal, I think, with strategic content marketing, is it bridges that gap. It builds a bridge between that target client who has these problems and this business owner who has solutions. It builds a bridge between them so that you can talk on the same level.
Yeah, and that gets a little bit more into what we've already talked a little bit about, and that's relationship building. So
Mhm.
obviously you're a big believer in that, and you love it. I love it too. Yet, generally when we generally think about marketing, it's usually seen as a one to many mindset.
Mhm.
So my thing about audience actually comes in here, where relationship building is usually one to one, or maybe one to a few, depending on the situation. How do you guide your clients to prioritize relationship building in their marketing efforts? What do they need to do to really not only prioritize that, but to have people know that, hey, we really want to build a relationship with you, and while they are marketing, essentially.
Yeah. I really like this question because it makes me kind of take a step back and think, because I haven't thought of marketing, like the differences, right? And one to many versus one to one. To me, it all kind of, it all kind of goes together. But
Yeah, sure.
if we're going back to that marketing funnel, right? And we're doing attract, marketing tactics, the attract phase to get out in front of people. That's one to many, right? Usually you're not doing one thing to reach one people, right? One person. You want to like do something and reach a whole bunch of people to get them in your funnel. And
Yep.
then convert, you're trying to give someone something interesting enough that they're going to give you your name and email address. And then nurture, if you've built out these nurture workflows in your email, like that is also one to many. So I think the one-to-one ends up really being extremely critical in that close section of the funnel, which is more that sales process. And there's marketing that can help with that, right? So if we have customized case studies for different verticals that we serve, let's just say, for an example, then that salesperson needs to, really work to build that relationship and think, okay, what sort of content can I pull that's really even more specialized to what this person is going through or what their experience is with this problem? And so I think that that's an area where you can really shift from that one to many in that one to one.
Right. Yeah. Because another phrase, and as you're discovering, we have all kinds of phrases and things like that here. I'm sure you do too. But one of the things that we really encourage is that, to bridge from know, like, and trust to more of a relationship, you need to attract, which you've already said, attract, teach, and engage.
Mm, I like
And
that.
it comes from the content, and hopefully the engagement, the true engagement, which is, starting that sales conversation and actually getting into the sales process, comes from everything that you've done before, which is, which is the attract and teach part. And you're teaching about what they need to hear. You're not teaching about what you want to tell them.
Yes.
I think that that's really important. And
Yes.
do you have any stories of clients who saw a major transformation by focusing on relationship building?
So one particular client comes to mind, and it's a client who came to me after having worked with an agency first. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that agency relationship didn't go well. And back to earlier when you're talking, thank you so much for helping to promote my podcast on Fudge Your Marketing. That came about because of all these conversations I have with amazing business owners who unfortunately have horrible experiences with different aspects of marketing, whether it was a provider they tried to work with or a tactic that they put all their investment in and it didn't come through for them, whatever it is. There's so many stories to be told, which I hate. I hate it when business owners waste money and time and energy on marketing that doesn't work for them. But I think that there's so much value in having those conversations to talk about it so that other business owners can learn from it. So with that being said, this was one of those very first conversations that kind of got my wheel turning, knowing that I needed to start that podcast. And so this particular client is a leadership development training company. They're international. They hired this agency because they're at that point where, like, we've really built ourselves on relationships and mostly the founder's relationships. And the founder is like, okay, I don't want to keep, I want to start retiring from this business. Like, I don't want to be the one going out and finding all the new clients. Like, we need to build our marketing. So, like, this is kind of a well-oiled machine and we know what we need to do to attract and convert these awesome clients. And so they hired this agency with all the best intentions in the world. And unfortunately, the content that was being created just didn't, back to our word, authenticity, it didn't feel authentic to the company. They were like, this just isn't, it's not hitting the mark. It feels very generic and kind of blah. And they're like, it's just not who we are. Like, our business is established. We know who we are, and our marketing should reflect that. And so they tried the best they could to really coach those content creators and guide that and try and get it, right the ship and get it the way that they wanted it. And it just wasn't working. They weren't receptive to it. They kind of said, oh, yeah, but then it didn't come through. And so eventually they just decided we can't keep doing this.
Right.
They parted ways with the agency. The founder went out and did a bunch of research and found me and loved everything on my website about, simple and authentic marketing plans. And so we worked together on my process. I did a deep dive into all of their stuff and what's the website look like? What's the social look like? How about email marketing? How's this all work? They have a podcast too. So it's like, okay, let's look at all the pieces. Where are the areas of opportunity? I'm a big data and content standpoint. I like the creative side and the number side. So I'm like, okay, what's the data telling us? What can we learn from this? And oh, by the way, let's go through this content strategy process that we talked about earlier so that we can get super clear on who these people are that you want to target with your messaging and what are the problems that they're facing. So there was a lot of like that strategic work to get super clear on that audience they wanted to connect with, to build those authentic relationships with. And so then it was a matter of executing all those plans. And I pulled together a bunch of those execution specialists for them to really carry out those plans that we started together. And within the first month or 2 months, I think they were like, we're finally getting leads on our website. Like, this is great. We've never had anyone fill out that form. Or if it was, it's a spam bot kind of thing. And so they're really excited to have a marketing plan and content that they feel good about, that they know represents them as a company, and that is going to allow them to build those authentic relationships with the ideal clients that they want to serve.
Yes, I mean, to me, it kind of sounds, and this is probably I know it's oversimplifying it, but it sounds like finding your own voice, talking in your own voice to your audience of prospects or clients or whatever, but knowing what they need and speaking to that, but speaking to it in your own voice genuinely and authentically.
Yes. Yep. Lots of moving pieces in there, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's possible. Yes. It sounds simple.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds simple. It sounds simple and easy. It can be simple-ish, but it's not easy.
Yes. It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process without a doubt. So, now we've kind of talked about things in the present and everything. I'm going to have you look into your marketing crystal ball for just a second here. What do you see the biggest trends or shifts in marketing that businesses should pay attention to, and how can businesses start to prepare for that today without feeling overwhelmed by the next shiny thing that's out there and things like that?
Yes. I love the timing of our conversation because I just did a solo episode on my podcast on this topic.
Oh, wow.
So
Great.
perfect timing, trends and also predictions. So two things that I honed in on that podcast episode are one being the model in which businesses work with marketing providers. And I kind of just illustrated it in that example that I gave. I think there are traditional ways that business owners think about doing marketing for their companies, right? It could be, okay, I need to hire people internally to come in and do the things and build our marketing plan and execute it. And there's also the model of, okay, I'm going to hire an agency and they're going to do everything I need for my business to market
Right.
effectively. I think that that is being disrupted. I think that more and more business owners are sometimes getting burned by bad relationships that didn't work out, or they're
Mhm.
hiring people and expecting them to be able to do everything under the marketing sun, which if we go back to our earlier part of this conversation, when I named off a bunch of things in that marketing umbrella, you cannot expect one person to be an expert in all of those things.
Mhm.
And so I think it leaves this opportunity for business owners to consider working with contractors and working with fractional CMOs and people who they don't need to hire in, but they can contract with and get those very specific skills that they need in order to execute a marketing plan, usually at a much more cost-effective way than if you were to hire an agency to do all of the things for you.
Yeah,
Go for it.
that's interesting. Do you see yourself as a fractional CMO?
It's funny, I didn't until I would explain to people what I do for small to mid-sized service-based businesses. And they're like, oh, so you're like a fractional CMO. And I'm like, I guess I am. Sure, we can call me that.
That's funny. That's funny. So I think that's something else that, that we're heavily into now that is definitely going to be a part of the future of, marketing and sales and business and everything else
AI.
is AI. Yeah, exactly.
That was the other thing.
Yeah, that
So
was the other thing.
that was my second one.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't even click that off
No,
my mind.
I knew it was gonna like flow into the next one. So I'm like, we'll address
Yeah.
it.
So first of all, like it or hate it?
Yeah. Okay. So I will tell you, anyone who knows me, because I talk about this in my LinkedIn videos and content, I'm not an early adopter. I am okay, something new came out. Let's keep a pulse on it. Let's kind of see what people are saying about it. But I'm not going to go and invest a bunch of my time, energy, budget into something brand new until I know that it's really worth it. So that's kind of how I've been with AI.
Yeah,
This
makes sense.
year, I was introduced to a specific AI tool that allows you to take video and audio content of your own, layer on your own written samples of marketing content, and then produce new content in written form.
Neat.
So this totally changed the game for me. Like, I absolutely love this tool. I've signed up to be an affiliate of it. Like, I am just like, this is so genius, because part of my hesitancy with AI was, if people use AI to create content for them, I don't like the idea of it scraping the entire internet to produce that content that, oh, now, okay, Bob Woods, you are the author of this new blog post. It just didn't sit right with me, especially
Yeah.
as we're talking about authenticity and all of those things. And so that's why I love this tool specifically, because I think it's a really great way, especially for small business owners, who have limited budgets to leverage something that will help them. Like, you start with a video and then you end up getting all of this great written content from that: social post, blog, email, YouTube title, description, timestamps, like all of these things. So that's my own personal experience with AI and kind of some of my reservations and observations with it.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring up the point about AI potentially going out and researching other thing and then branding, branding in definite air quotes under a person for like a blog post, for example, because one of the things that we talk about, and I'm sure you have given this thought too, is authenticity in AI.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, well, I can tell when something's AI written, which most people anymore can tell when something is AI versus when it comes from someone specifically.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that? I guess is probably a real basic way to do that. I mean, because AI can be important in developing content, but yet you can't have people looking at something and going, God, that's just AI. Who cares?
Yes. Yeah, I think it goes back to, what are your core values as a business? And if authenticity is really important to you, then I think you do need to be discerning about what tools you're going to use and how you're using them. So if you're using an AI tool to help your marketing content team brainstorm ideas, or that's honestly the very first thing I used AI for, was like, help me come up with title ideas for this webinar I want to give, or something like that. Or actually, it was LinkedIn Lives I was doing. I don't feel, I love that you think I'm so good at creating names for things, but sometimes I really struggle with it. So I'm like, okay, AI, like, here's what I'm going to be talking about. Give me some creative ideas. And inevitably, I would still change them, but at least it gave me a starting point instead of that whole like blank screen kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that using it in that way is fine, right? Some people call it as like, it's my brainstorming buddy, especially if you're a small business owner, or solo business owner, or a solo content creator, right? It's a great way to have a new tool, a new resource. If you are creating something that you're going to publish as your own, how are you talking about that? I think disclosure is really important. If you are using AI to do something and then saying that you wrote it, I think having a line in there that says, this post was written with the help of, this AI tool. If that's important, if you feel like you want to be totally transparent, I think that's something to consider doing.
How do you feel?
Unfortunately, it's this like slippery slope and this huge
Yeah.
Pandora's box that's been opened, and it's up to all of us to figure out, how do we feel about it and how do we want to handle it.
How do you feel about it?
I think it can be used for good. Like I said, with right, good or evil. I mean, I think there's applications for both. My poor father-in-law got scammed by someone who used AI to take my sister-in-law's voice, and like, it's bad. Like, there is
Oh,
bad out there, unfortunately. Like,
mm,
so I don't want to gloss over and say like, yeah, AI is great, it helps with, like, there is bad. There really is evil with it, unfortunately. I think as business, how I feel about it, I feel like I personally, for my own business, need to be very discerning. And I have chosen to use tools like the ones that I do for repurposing my own content, because then I know it's rooted in me. It sounds
yeah.
like me. It's my information. It's my thought leadership. It's my expertise. So
Yep.
I think that there are ways. I would love for any business owners who's listening to this and may be on that more conservative end of like, I don't want to use AI. I don't know enough about it. I'm hesitant.
Yeah.
I would like them to know that there are tools that help you preserve your authenticity and your thought leadership in that way. And they can still allow you to save a lot of time and energy
Yep. And money as well. So
and
that
money.
all that,
Yes.
yeah, all that's very important. So yes, I mean AI is just it's amazing in what it can do, and with great power comes great responsibility, I think is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So okay, so let's throttle back from that deeply philosophical
Yes.
thing that we did here, because my
What do
brain's
you?
starting to get a little fried at this point. But you have a website. It's kristimitchell.com, Kristi Mitchell.com. We'll include that in the show notes as well. It has a ton of resources, like quiz, masterclass, resource library. How can anyone who's interested, after listening to this great conversation, tap into what you have and use them to kickstart their own marketing journey, or maybe they're in that position that one company you were talking about is just not getting anything out of their current marketing, and they're like, what she's talking about sounds interesting. What do you have in there?
Yeah, definitely my resource library is a great place to start. There's a ton of stuff there. I've just added to it over the years. So the marketing masterclass is a really great place to start. It's on demand, it's recorded, it's 20 minutes. I really dive deeper into that marketing funnel framework. So if you're like, oh gosh, I would really like to see that as a visual and kind of dive into that deeper for my own business, definitely go check out the masterclass. It's a great place, again, to get started. My podcast, like you said, Unfudge Your Marketing. It's honestly easier because there's like an asterisk in the way I named it. It's so hard to search for. That was my bad. Go to my website and then get to the podcast from there. It's a lot easier. Trust me. That's a really great place if you're a business owner who's kind of thinking like, gosh, I think I need to do something differently with my marketing. Go check out some of those episodes. They really are such value-packed conversations. They are 30 minutes or less, so it's not a huge requirement of time. And it just might help you get your wheels turning and help you get a little clarity on what you need to be exploring for your own marketing. And then you can always, reach out to me through my website or LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Feel free to send me a DM and tell me you heard about me here.
Excellent. Very good. I love all of that. So, going to wrap things up with how I wrap up all of these shows. I love those one thing you can do right now type of takeaway strategies. So, boy, we've covered so much. I had an original one here, and I'm like, I'm not sure I want to ask that now. So I'm actually going to just kind of toss it open to you. For business owners just wondering about marketing, what is one thing they can do right now to really just improve their marketing in general, do you think?
I would say to be very honest and reflect and ask yourself if you have a strategy driving what you're doing. Because going back to that earlier part of our conversation, I think that that's where a lot of business owners struggle and don't see results, is when they're lacking that strategy. So I like to talk about it in terms of like, if you think of puzzle pieces, right? All those tactics I talked about are like the puzzle pieces. Yeah. And then the strategic plan is like, okay, which puzzle pieces are coming into our plan here? And so if you are a business owner who doesn't have that clarity on the things you really need to be doing for your marketing and how they fit together like a nice puzzle, then I think getting some help to get the strategic plan in place is really critical.
That sounds like a great way to wrap things up. So podcaster, strategic marketing consultant, and founder of Marketing Uncomplicated, still loving that name, Kristi Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us in the Social Sales Link virtual studios today.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Oh, anytime. And thank you for streaming this episode of Making Sales Social. So remember, when you're out and about this week or any week, be sure to make your sales social. Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.